She did get 7.3 assists per game. That's what she averaged, and that was in 2023. And upon Caitlin Clark's entry in her rookie season, Caitlin Clark not only broke the game assists in the WNBA, she broke the overall total assists in the entire history of the WNBA. So it's very hard to argue that Chelsea Gray is a better point guard than Caitlin Clark. Even last season, with Caitlin Clark only playing 13 games, Caitlin Clark averaged more assists per game than Chelsea Gray's best year, which was, what did she get in 2025? She averaged 8.8 assists per game, with 8.5 total in her 2 seasons. But she also did it while she was powering through injuries. Imagine what would have happened if she wasn't injured. The recency bias in this is glaring. Last season, Chelsea Gray did average 5.4 assists, and I watched all of those games, and Chelsea Gray had a rough go of it in the beginning of the season, but she was able to get to that midi and knock shots down. She could get a shot off at the 3 in clutch moments. Chelsea Gray is so clutch. Listen, I'm of the opinion that Chelsea Gray at one point was the best point guard in the league. It's arguable. It's arguable that Chelsea Gray was definitely the best point guard in the WNBA at one point. I do just think that at this point, the torch has passed.
Caitlin Clark just set a record that I genuinely believe may never be broken. Not hard to break. Not unlikely to break. Never. And I want to walk you through exactly why I feel that way, because the numbers here are almost hard to process when you actually sit with them. She reached 1,000 assists in 59 games. Let that breathe for a second. 59 games. To do that, you're talking about a player averaging nearly 9 assists a game while simultaneously putting up close to 18 points. In a 40-minute game, that is an upside combination to sustain, not for a stretch, not for a hot week, but across an entire body of work fast enough to shatter a record that previously didn't even have a real challenger. Now, there are Clark records that I look at and think, okay, eventually someone comes for that. The points records, the rookie numbers, some of those milestones could theoretically fall given the right player and the right situation. But this one is different. The assists record specifically is different because it requires a very particular type of player, and that type of player has essentially been engineered out of the modern game. Think about what we're seeing across the WNBA right now. We're living in the era of the combo guard. Players who can score, who can handle, but who are not fundamentally wired as distributors first. Even someone like Olivia Miles, who is one of the best passers in the league, is averaging around 5 assists a game. And I like Olivia Miles. But 5 assists is not 9 assists. That gap is not small. That gap is enormous, and it compounds across a full season. For anyone to approach this record, you're not just asking for a great point guard. You're asking for a specific archetype. You need a pass-first, vision-first guard who also scores at a high enough volume that she can't be played off the ball or benched in crunch time. And then on top of that, you need to drop that player into the perfect supporting cast. We're talking a dominant big who finishes pick and roll at an elite rate, a dependable off-ball scorer who commands attention, and enough shooting around the perimeter that the defense has to spread and can't just wall off the paint. Every single piece of that has to align, and it has to align for a player who also has the durability to stay on the floor. That durability part is where this gets really sobering. Clark missed time last season. She dealt with injuries, and even with that disruption, even with those games where she clearly wasn't fully herself, she still lapped the field. Before those injuries last year, she was averaging 23 points and 9 assists. She was on a pace that made this record look like a formality, not a chase. The fact that she still got here as fast as she did, despite missing time, tells you how much runway she still has. And when you line up the numbers that have been good enough to reach this milestone, you're looking at totals of 104, 102, 101, 84, 82. Those aren't padding stats. Those are performances. That is consistency at a level that doesn't really have a recent WNBA comparison. There's also a structural argument here that doesn't get talked about enough. There's been ongoing conversation in basketball circles about shortening the NBA game. And I will tell you right now, there is no realistic scenario where the WNBA expands its game to 48 minutes. That's not happening. And because the game isn't getting longer, the raw opportunity to accumulate assists at this kind of pace simply doesn't exist for future players the way the clock and roster construction allowed it to exist for Clark. The math just doesn't work in anyone's favor. If you want to project forward and find the most optimistic scenario for this record falling, here's what you'd need. A top 1 overall pick, a point guard, 6'1", 6'2" minimum, because smaller guards at this level of usage get hurt too often to sustain it. She would need to land on a team that already has pieces in place, not a rebuilding situation, not a team that asks her to carry everything alone. She would need a true pick-and-roll big, a proven off-ball weapon, and shooters. All of that would have to be ready on day one. And then she'd have to perform at the level Clark performed. Not approximate it. Match it. That player does not currently exist in the WNBA. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully to anyone in the league right now. I'm saying that what Clark has done statistically is genuinely singular, in the same way that certain LeBron records feel singular. You look at them and you understand intellectually that records can fall, that basketball evolves, that the right player at the right moment can do unexpected things. And then you look at the actual numbers and think, no, this one's different. She had 5 straight games with an assist double-double as a rookie, including a triple-double in that stretch. She put up 19 assists in a single game, the all-time single-game rookie assist record. And while I won't say every Clark record is untouchable, that one comes pretty close, because to break it you'd need everything to go right in one single performance at the highest level of basketball. What Clark has done is build a statistical legacy that's going to sit at the top of this league's record books for a very long time. Not because the WNBA lacks talent. It doesn't. It's deep and it's getting deeper. But because what she's doing requires a combination of skill, situation, health, and system that almost never comes together like this. And when it does, it produces something that looks less like a sports record and more like a permanent marker in the history of the game.